Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Sanjeev Kumar. I am second year resident of Anesthesia Department of GGS Medical College, Faridkot. My topic for oral presentation is COVID and how it affects how anesthesia practice has changed. The 2019 coronavirus or SARS coronavirus 2 is an enveloped RNA virus that belongs to the coronaviridae, a family of viruses that can infect humans and several animal species. To date, 7 human coronaviruses have been identified. The SARS-CoV-2 belongs to the subgenus Sarbecovirus and most closely resembles a bat coronavirus with which it shares 96.2% genetic sequence homology. The average incubation period is 5 days, but it ranges from 1 to 14 days. The spectrum of clinical diseases, it may vary from mild upper respiratory tract infection, which is in 81% cases, and to severe acute respiratory distress syndrome and sepsis. The median age of infected individuals is between 49 to 56 years. Children are rarely diagnosed with 2019 novel coronavirus, a phenomena that has not yet been explained. If we talk about morbidity and mortality, the case fatality rate is currently estimated at 2% based on the confirmed cases reported for the ongoing outbreak. However, as mild and subclinical infections are currently underreported, the true case fatality is likely to be lower than this. People with comorbidities such as diabetes, mellitus, and cardiovascular diseases appear to be at higher risk for the death. Now let's talk about anesthetic considerations. Globally, concerns were raised about infections in healthcare workers despite apparently appropriate personal protective equipment. Anesthesiologists are especially at risk because of risk involved in aerosol generating medical procedures, for example, tracheal intubation, non-invasive ventilation, tracheostomy, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, manual ventilation before intubation, and bronchoscopy. As anesthesiologists usually work in operating rooms, emergency departments, and/or intensive care units, often in close proximity to patients' airway, exposing them to their aerosolized respiratory secretions. Now let's talk about key differences. Preparing the patient and procedure room for COVID positive patient. The room should be adequately ventilated with minimum 12 air changes per hour, which is preferred. The patient should wear a face mask during transport to the procedure room. The staff involved in the care of patients should don PPE as required by their hospital's policy for management of COVID-19. Hand hygiene must be performed by staff before and after all patient contact, particularly before putting and after removing PPE. The number of individual staff members involved in the resuscitation should be kept to a minimum with no or minimal exchange of staff for the duration of case if possible. This is the image of the doctor in PPE, how doctors look in PPE. Now, what are the components of PPE? A particulate respirator, which should be US National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health certified N95 mask or European standard FFP2. Eye protection through the use of goggles or a disposable face shield. Gown with fluid resistance, gloves and shoe covers. Careful attention must be paid to the donning and doffing of PPE to avoid potential exposure and self-contamination, which is highest during removal of PPE. After removing protective equipment, the healthcare worker should avoid touching the hair and face before cleaning hands. Now let's talk about airway management. To minimize the aerosol generated during airway instrumentation, some factors to be considered including the following. Airway management should be reserved for the most experienced anesthetists, if possible. A high-efficiency hydrophobic filter interposed between face mask and breathing circuit or between face mask and airbag can be used if available. Avoid manual ventilation of the patient. Muscle relaxants should be used for intubation. If manual ventilation is anticipated, small tidal volumes should be applied. Muscle relaxants should be used. Yeah. Repeated tracheal intubation attempts could potentially increase virus spread, so a laryngeal mask should be inserted after an intubation failure. The procedures we should practice the most should be those that minimize patient's coughing and high airway pressure during anesthesia. Awake fiber optic intubation should be avoided. Consider the use of video laryngoscopy. Tracheal intubation rather than the use of laryngeal mask is favored. And tidal carbon dioxide is better indicator of successful tracheal intubation as oxygen saturation is not always increased immediately after intubation in these patients because the oxygen exchange is significantly impaired. Whilst resuscitating the critically ill patient, chest compression should be held during intubation to avoid exposing the face of the intubating clinician to aerosol. And neuromuscular blockers should be considered before intubation if possible. There are some new devices which has been invented in view of COVID-19. I have placed some pics. This is special intubation box. This is face shield we use. This is the pic of video laryngoscope, and these are the EtCO2 devices. This is digital EtCO2 devices, and this is the conventional EtCO2 device which we usually use. And these are the designated operating rooms and anesthesia machines which are specifically for the COVID-19 patient. Designated operating rooms and anesthesia machines only for COVID-19 cases, and water traps, the anesthesia circuit, heat and moisture exchange filters and carbon dioxide filters should be changed after each patient. Surgeries should be performed under regional anesthesia as it has the benefits of preservation of respiratory function and avoidance of aerosolization. In a nutshell, COVID-19 has changed the original practice of anesthesia. Still, lots of things are unknown about the disease and its transmission. Special considerations are needed to ensure the safety of healthcare workers as well as patients while dealing with these patients. These are the references. Uh, at the end, thank you for listening.